All right, so we're over here in Brooklyn. Got this Gordon PI burner over here and some pilot issues, so can go through this thing a little bit step by step. Got my trusty little tripod here. I'm gonna try this out. Try to up our social media game, that's what it's all about in the end. But I'm gonna try to run you through this thing on this particular burner, pull the pilot assembly out, show you what we do. Probably test the transformer, and then I'll show you a couple other things. So tune in. So I got my little seat. Here go the burner, right? The cabinet for the burner, and here's the pilot assembly for the burner. So I'm gonna pull the pilot assembly out. I'm gonna show you what it looks like inside. This is a pretty old burner. You can see there's a little bit of neglect in this boiler room, but I'm gonna run through it. Check it out. So on the Gordon PI burner, you can see it has a square tip electrode. It's a little bit on the gappy side, doesn't look terrible, but I'd like to make that gap a little bit tighter. If you notice where these two edges touch, it's got to be a little bit tighter than that. So I'm going to pull this electrode out. I'm going to clean everything up, try to adjust it as best I can. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. You kind of have to put it in and pull it back out a dozen times until you get it just right. So follow along. So we got this straightened out. You know, it's one of those things over the years that I wish I could get it better than it is. But I mean, you could play with this thing for 3 hours until you get it right. So I get it close, and I know it's going to spark well, and I know it's going to do the job it needs to do. And I just keep it moving because I don't have 4 hours to spend here, if you know what I mean. But I cleaned everything out. I tried these time-lapse videos. They're kind of cool. So I figured, let me see how that would work out. But like I said, I don't love it, but I know it's not going to be a problem. So clean everything up. I'm going to throw it back in. We'll see. On to the next thing. So everything's back together. Here goes my blower air switch. So I have your positive and negative hookups that go straight to the pilot assembly. Here goes my pilot gas line. This is my electrode going in there. We had run a new wire and a fairly new ignition transformer down there. So, but I still was going to test it out. I mean, I've had come across these where the ignition transformers kind of crap out. I don't know. They don't make things well anymore. What can I say? So let's see. It's a pretty strong pilot, pretty strong spark, so I'm looking okay on the transformer. So I'm gonna toss this thing back in and we'll see what else is going on. So on here we're really looking for anything above a 20 signal. That's what my eye is reading. And here you can see it jumps somewhere about 30, 31. So I got a pretty decent pilot, man. Now that everything's cleaned up, I'm going to check the back as well and just see how everything looks on the pilot one more time. Now if you look closely up here, there's a check run switch. So what happens when I put this thing in pilot, I can put it on check, and then I can check in the back and it'll just hang into pilot the whole time. So this way I can kind of get an idea what the pilot looks like. It really gives me a good starting point on where my air shutter is, if everything looks good, and I can get a nice idea of what we're looking like inside, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to throw this thing in test, and we're going to check the back. So I just wait for that countdown. Once I hear the click, boom, check. So now I have it in check PTFI signal. So it's sitting in pilot. So let's go take a look at the other side. So the pilot didn't look too bad. I'm going to put it back on run. And now you'll see the relay switch back over. and the boiler lit. Now, I learned many years ago, I do at least a minimum of 5 recycles. I don't know why it's such an arbitrary number, but I've seen it many times where you get to the 1, 2, 3 recycles, everything's good, you get to the 4th, and she locks out again. So the way that this setup is, and I'm going to show you in a second, it has a spring valve attached to it, so sometimes it has the propensity to stay with the air shutter open too much when it lights pilot, and it can sometimes blow the pilot out. So I'm also going to show you how that works and make sure that it's springing back and forth. This is an old school job. Not everything works out exactly how we want it to, and we do the best we can to keep it running at optimal levels. Eventually they're going to have to upgrade to new equipment, but for now this is what we got.